Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the class. David A. Cox here with PCClassesOnline.com. And today we're going to be talking about how you can paint on your iPad. We're going to be using a piece of software that I really fell in love with about a year ago called ArtRage. And it's really inexpensive. Now, they make a version for the iPad. They do make a version for the iPhone, but I think even probably most of the people who work there would admit that the iPad version's the best. They also make one for the computer. So for those of you who want to, you could always have one of those little drawing tablets and use an actual pen to do basically everything that I'm going to be showing you today. So let me get my screen up so that you can see my iPad. Just one moment. Now, before we get started here, I just want to mention, for those of you who are maybe new and have recently discovered us, we recently became a completely free service, open to the public. This was largely due, well, this is basically due to the fact that after we aired on Shark Tank on ABC, we got a series of contracts that allowed us to have the ability to make this a free public service. And frankly, I believe in what we do, and I think the world needs this kind of thing. So if you haven't already checked this out, make sure you go to our website at PCClassesOnline.com. So you are now looking at my iPad. So if there's any push notifications that come through, sorry, we're live. We're going to be going to ArtRage, which is right. Oops, sorry about that. Let me lock my screen now so that doesn't happen again. This is the icon for ArtRage. I believe it's $5 these days. I could be wrong about that. And ArtRage is just, it's so wonderfully made. And you can either just paint from scratch, or if you have no artistic talent like me, you can actually paint from one of your photos. So this is kind of the main screen you see when you first open it, and what it wants you to do is either click on New Painting, in which case you'll get a brand new canvas. It's just asking you questions about what kind of roughness do you want on the paper. I'm going to tap Done. Okay, and here's your basic tools here. So I figured we'd start off with me just going over what these different icons look like, even though I think a lot of them are probably fairly obvious. Right here we have your paint bucket. So if you want to just make the whole canvas blue, you can use you can tap over here, select the shade of blue that you want, and tap the paint bucket, and it becomes blue. And you see that you have that kind of texture there. That's what that previous screen was showing us. And what's really cool with this stuff is that when you're done painting and you have your finished product, I've actually gone the extra step of having it printed on canvas, and I have to say it came out 10 times better than what I thought it would. Very, very impressed with these people. The next tool over here is your little eraser tool, okay? And just like an actual eraser, kind of the more you go over it, the more it will erase. So if I just give you a little stroke there, you can kind of see, I can actually zoom in, and you see that if I really go at it, it erases it much more thoroughly. What's nice is that you really do, this program does an incredible job with texture in terms of really making it look real. Your next little tool here is chalk. So you can use chalk if you like. Okay, let's select a different color. Let's go to like a pink. And you can see how that kind of looks. Now this is also great. I'm a big believer in educational tools for children. And I think parents, if you have a kid and you want to keep them busy in the car rather than letting them play a game, let's have them paint on the iPad. It's kind of a cool way for them to express their creativity and use that thing called their brain. Next we have the crayon. Okay, it looks exactly like you'd expect it to look. Okay, I'm actually going to undo the paint bucket here because I want to make sure that you can really see what we're doing here. Next we have the felt tip marker. Okay, let's see what that texture looks like. You have your pen. Let's put that to black so you can kind of see that. Pencil, very similar. This next one here I use a lot. Let me just erase these. This right here is basically your oil. So if you, my favorite texture that I've gotten to really fall in love with is the one that makes it look like actual oil on canvas. So with this, you can kind of choose your color. Let's go to dark blue. And then you can use the palette knife coming up soon and really spread it around. And I'll to prep for this, I'm going to put a little white in here. Actually, that's more gray. Put the metallic down a little bit. Okay, and you'll see how these all blend together in a minute. You have your paint roller. Okay, and this is my favorite tool, the palette knife. And you'll see that as I start to blend these together, it really does look very close to what it would actually look like if you were using an actual palette knife. Now, if you really get into this, one of the things you may want to do, especially if you decide to go the route of having it printed on canvas, is you may want to actually buy their software for the computer. And there's one main reason. When you were working on this file, it's a very high resolution image. However, if you want to export it, so let's say that you could have it printed on canvas, you really need their software to do that because it's a proprietary format. And to get it to a decent resolution so that it'll look really, really good when you have that printed, you do need their software. So that software is, I believe, $50. You can check it out, though. Just Google ArtRage. Okay, so that's the palette knife. Next, we have our little airbrush gun. So let's go to green so you can see what that looks like. You can see it's very light, sort of if you're going to do that graffiti look. Next we have our watercolor. Okay, so I can use that and show you a little bit. I was actually playing with this a little bit beforehand. You can see what that looks like. It's kind of a very clean look. I like the way that looks. And then we have our generic brush. Which also does work pretty well when it comes to working with the oil effect. You can see it kind of blends it very nicely there. Alright. Now, some of the other tools here, if you pay attention to the very bottom of my screen here, we have a few extra tools here. This right here, this space is showing you what tool you have selected. So you'll notice as I go through these, it changes. Okay, so I'm going to just hide that screen. And next I'm going to go here and tap on this gear. And this gear has to do with the size of your brush, or the tool, I should say, more generically. What kind of a tip it has, the amount of pressure, and you'll see that if I lower the pressure to 15% and I do this, it has a very different effect than when I up it to 95%, and it's a lot more extreme. Okay? So you can kind of play with that and get it to the way that you like it. Next, we have this folder with a gear in it, and this has to do with the preset settings for each individual tool. So, for example, for the palette knife, it's saying what kind of edges, how much smear do you want. If I were to switch over right now to the watercolor, you'll see here that you have a different set of tools here. So I can do a low bleed, just water, add just a little spot, heavy bleed. Okay. So all of these have a totally different effect on your overall image. Okay, let's do unclean brush. See how that looks. The next icon right here is undo. So if you make a mistake and you need to go back, you can tap it as many times as you need. I don't know what the actual limit is. I think it might be 50. So you can go back 50 steps in time. I could be wrong about that. Of course, next to that, only active if you've just gone back, is redo. So if you accidentally go back too many steps, you can recreate what you just deleted. Over here, we have a folder with an arrow pointed down, and that is where you go to either save your image, or you can go back to the gallery and start a new project, whatever you want. The little question mark takes you, this is a really handy thing to look out for. The little question mark takes you to a lot of the frequently asked questions. It'll give you kind of the definition of what the different tools are, and a bunch of different troubleshooting things here too. One of the big tips that I recommend is make sure when you're doing this, if you're going to be painting on your iPad, this is pretty processor intense on the iPad, and you need to make sure that you have plenty of memory, otherwise you're going to have a significant lag in when you paint and when you see it appear on the iPad. So the easiest trick to clear the memory is just end all of the apps that are multitasking in the background. And just to review how to do that, you're going to double click the home button. That would be the only button on the front. Okay, so double click it, 1, 2. If there are any apps that are running in the background, you will press and hold on them. They start to jiggle. Let me just recreate that for you right now. Let's just go into settings so that I have that running. So what you would do is double click the home button, press and hold. They start to jiggle, and tap that little red dot. And just make sure everything's cleared out. That way you have all of the memory to use on your iPad. Now, just above this question mark, you'll see there's a little dabber tool. Is it called dabber? Droplet? Whatever. What it does is it allows you to select the color. So if I'm trying to find a very specific shade, what I can actually do is tap on that and hover my finger over what color I want. So say I want that shade of green right there. Okay, I now have that color selected. So if I want to now add some oil, I have that color available. Next is layers. So that's this button over here. And so you can see the different layers. Okay, all your different options here. In this case, it's a little similar to Photoshop as far as the different blending modes. You can see right now I have it set to normal mode, but you have other options here too. So if you're going to be doing a watercolor, you may want to select watercolor mode. Okay, and it'll just be look a lot better for you when you're done. See, look at how well that blended right there. Doesn't that look good? Okay. Next here, we have the reference tool. So this is for those of you who like to paint from an image. There's actually 2 different ways that you can do this. I prefer the other method, which I'll show you next. But what this will do is you can import an image or take it with your iPhone or iPad. And you can just go into your photo library and pull up an image, which will just stick there at the very top. And that way you have something to work from. Okay? So that's a hell of a lot better than having the photo app running in the background and constantly switching back and forth between the two. Next is probably my favorite, which is where you can load an image. Now, technically speaking, there's actually 2 different ways. Sorry about the push notifications at the top. There's technically actually 2 ways to do this part. So if I go to import image, you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's go into photo stitching, and I'll just pull up a photo that I've done recently. It's actually a little bit hard to see here. Okay, so what you can see is in the background you have this kind of overlay, and you can start to build your color on top. Okay, it's similar to almost a paint by numbers kind of thing. Okay, so if I want to, just place my sky, I can clearly see here that the sky is up here. Okay, and then I can start to use my palette knife, whatever, and blend it. I can blend in some whites there to make it look nice and pretty. But the idea is that underneath this, I can see the original image. And the second method I'll show you in just a minute. So that was that. You can also see here that when you tap on these various tools, you can change the opacity. So if I want to make it a little bit clearer, as I take it up, you see the image a lot more clearly. And then finally over here we have kind of a color reference tool, which I personally never use. Now I'm going to go back to the gallery here. I'm not going to save this because I want to show you my favorite way to paint on my iPad. So what you're going to do is from this screen you're going to click on this little box here at the bottom left. Now this is what we're going to do is we're going to import a photo from the photo library on the iPad. Okay, so I'm going to say import from photos and pick my photo. I'm going to go into my best shots here, and let's see here. I think I'll choose this one here, which I shot in town. Takes a minute to load because this is a high resolution image. So now what I'm going to basically be doing is everywhere that you see color, which is of course everywhere, it's as though that color is oil. So now what I can do is I can use my various tools and turn it into a painting. So let's start with the roof here. And you can use your fingers just like you would to zoom in on a website and pinch them and zoom in however you want. So from here I can go to my different tools and I can start to create my image. I think I'm actually going to, while I normally do oil, I think I'm going to do this one in watercolor, just as kind of an experiment. So what I'm going to do, let's go into, let's see here. let's go into the different modes here. Canvas lighting, yeah, we can leave that, I guess, actually. I just want to check one thing here real quick. Canvas settings. Let's take the roughness down a bit. Okay. So now I can take my watercolor tool and I can start to play with it here. Now I can either match the color. Oops. Sorry, did that wrong. Or, let's just go back to the palette tool. So now what I can do is I can just start to spread it. And you can do fine strokes or you can do broad strokes, however you want. Obviously it is going to look different. I'll just do a couple quick ones right here. A little bit messy. The funny story about Art Rage is that I started playing with this about a year ago, and I didn't actually have my work printed on canvas until about 6 weeks ago. And I was so impressed, I decided to take I guess a little bit of a leap of faith, if you will. And I walked into a gallery, and I showed them my work, and I said, "What do you think?" And my work is now in their gallery. So it just goes to prove that, as long as you have kind of that artistic vision, especially if you're, good at photography, you don't actually need to be good at painting to be able to make this look good. I then picked up some acrylic paint, and my plan is to layer the printed canvas with actual acrylic to give it kind of that real 3D feel. And you can already start to see, how this is looking. And by the time you're done really putting a lot of work into it, I'm just doing these little strokes right now. It really doesn't look anymore like a photo. It really does look like an actual painting. Sometimes what I'll do with these is I'll actually layer in a little bit of something extra, something that I wished was in the painting but wasn't. So for example, if it's a little too crystal clear of a day, I'll throw in some white and just make it look like there's clouds there. The other thing that's great, Cape Cod here, it's beautiful, but we have way too many power lines, as is noticeable right there. And what's great with this is you can just basically blend it out just by going back and forth over the image. The other colors around kind of take it over, so you're in fact wiping out that power line. Okay, so then I blend it in with the clouds here. And you can already start to see the painting taking its final shape. Allow me to take a second to show you some of the other things I've done here with it. 1 second. So these are all paintings that I have made in Art Rage, okay? And you can see them. That is actually a photo I shot with my phone and then converted into a painting on Art Rage. That's shot in a store here in town. Now that's the original image. This one here, this one is not my image. This one I downloaded off the internet. And that's the after work, the after image. Okay. I love lighthouses. I love Cape Cod, so you see a lot of that theme here. That's Captain Jack's Wharf in Provincetown. That's my favorite one. It's one a friend of mine actually shot. But it's just really cool, and you can show these off to your friends and say, hey, check this out. I painted all of these on my iPad. And it's a great conversation starter. So what I'd like to do now is, that's kind of the very basics of Art Rage. And more than anything, it's about being able to explore and just try different textures, try something with watercolor, then try it in oil, and play with it until you're happy with it. It's a fantastic piece of software. I really do hope that you'll check it out and maybe get it. This is David A. Cox. For those of you who are here live right now, of course we are teaching this class live. I'd be happy to take some of your questions at this point. I see a few of them building right now. And for those of you who have been watching this, either in our video library or on YouTube, I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, to go to our website, check it out. We teach classes in everything from Mac, PC, iPhone, and iPad. That being said, the vast majority of our users are Apple users, so we do tend to focus on those. We also teach other things like web design. In the past, we've actually taught app development, and we have a lot of fun with it. So I hope you'll check it out. It is a free public service. There are no hidden fees of any kind. Yeah, give us a look. This is David A. Cox with PC Classes Online, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.